Well, hello everybody and welcome to our next piece of training all about the Young Enterprise Scotland Company Programme finals, whether that be your regional final or the Scottish final. I'm joined today by some of my esteemed colleagues from our judging panel for this year's the 2022 Scottish Company Programme Scottish finals. Lyle, Margaret and Phil both had a long history of judging on the programme, but all come from very different backgrounds. And the point of this training today is really to get an insight into the mind of a judge, what they're looking for when it comes to the interview, and they might also throw in some top tips about preparing your report and presentation as well. So I'm just going to kick right off. It's a very informal discussion to try and give you some top tips. But Lyle, I wonder if you want to just kind of say a quick hello and what you're looking for as a judge.
Yeah, so hello. I think for me, having done the programme quite recently and being relatively new to the world of work, I think it's about the learning. Everyone that's done the programme has got so many different learnings and they've all done something different. And regardless of whether you made this massive profit or you had no profit, or even some people don't even get to the point of launching their business. It's what have you learned from it and how does that translate into what you want to do moving forward? I think that is a big part for me.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very important point to highlight, and I think I tried to tell everybody about this. It's not about the team who makes the most money, and I think that you've just highlighted that really well, Lyle. That's how about that journey is really important. Mm-hmm. Margaret, what about you? What's important for you?
Well, I've judged a number of times, and I keep coming back every year because it's a very enjoyable experience. And for me, I would say there's brilliant guidelines. So your judging criteria, I would say that's your go-to initially. But as a judge, very much building on what Lyle said there, my career has really been about developing people and particularly their entrepreneurial skills. And it doesn't always mean that because you've done a young enterprise programme, you're definitely going to go and set up a business. But those skills that you have learned, and I really want to find out from you what those skills are, you will take that into your future studies, into your personal life, how you manage your budget, you'll take it into the world of work. So I'm trying to draw that out as well. And the other thing I would say is I want to hear that it's actually been a really enjoyable experience, because you put a lot of yourself into it. You have to build relationships with people you perhaps don't really know at school. And that's very much what happens in the world of work. You don't have to become friends with everyone, but you have to get on with them. So I'm quite interested in how you built those relationships and how you steered the stormy weathers, the stormy waters rather, because there's a lot of that goes on, and I'm quite keen to hear how you coped with that as a team and individually.
That's great, thanks, Margaret. What about yourself, Phil?
Yeah, like Margaret, I've been doing judging for a number of years now, and we do see a lot of fantastic entries, a lot of great stories, and that's what I really want to hear about. I want to hear about the story and the journey that you've come along, and sometimes the biggest learnings that Lyle was speaking about was perhaps when the adversity that you've actually had to overcome as a team. If members have dropped out, what impact that had on you. And just bring the story to life. We do see a lot of these, and throughout the course of the day of the finals, we'll judge a number of groups and have interviews with them. So we want to see excitement. We want to hear a real passionate story, live and breathe it. We can get so much of it from your report. We'll be able to pick up that. We'll have seen some of your presentations, and those are two parts to it. And this is the real key part to that jigsaw then, about how that all comes together, and that's the opportunity that we want to see. So excite us, tell us a story, bring us with you along your journey, so we feel like, oh God, we wish we were part of this. So that's probably some of the early things I'd want to see as well.
Can I pick up on something Phil said there, which I think is really important, is the report. So over a number of years, I've seen a really brilliant report. It's incredibly well written. It's really well presented. And I'm so excited to do the interview. And then we start the interview and you realise the group didn't write the report. And it's incredibly disappointing, because this is yours, you own it, your advisor doesn't own it, the teacher doesn't own it, somebody who's really good at writing doesn't own it, your team owns that report. And I want you to know that report inside out, so that when any of the judges ask you it, you can speak with real passion and commitment and knowledge because you wrote it. So don't be tempted to think we're not very good at English, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter. It's an introduction to you as a team, and just be really proud of what you've achieved.
I think actually, Margaret, to sort of a point you said about the judging criteria, it's, you know, the framework is there for your report. Mm-hmm. It's something where, you know, and the report is really for us to understand that the backbone of what's going on, and it's so that we're prepared to interview, and we can spend that time really talking about the business and what you've enjoyed doing in the process. And where your report is really structured and you've got that time to perfect it. It's the best tip I can give for that is to look at the framework. That's what us as judges work from.
I was going to say, Lyle, real top tip. That criteria is our judging criteria. Mm-hmm. So, you know, use it. You know, make sure you go through it and say, right, when I've done my report, does it cover all of these sections that they've asked for? That's a really good way of you know, making sure you cover what we're meant to be looking for. But no, it's that whole package that we need. So look, make sure that each stage, if you've done a really fantastic report and a really fantastic presentation, remember you've still got that interview to do. So you've got to be on your game right throughout, because in any business, that's what, you know, people have to do. So they can't turn up to half the meetings and be good. You've got to be good right across the whole plethora of what people are examining you on. So make sure you put the effort in.
Yeah.
And how important is honesty in this process?
It's fun.
Fundamental.
We're not going to lie to you on that one. I think is from the answer to that one. It's fundamental. I mean, you know, any business, honesty is what it's all about. If you make mistakes are great because they're a learning platform for you to do better next time, and think about whether it's a personal skill, whether it's an interaction that you've had, whether it's a product design that's gone wrong. It doesn't matter. The fact that you've learned from it, and then tell us that as well. This is what I learned from it, and this is how we move forward as a team as a result of resolving that. And I think we're keen to see those and hear those stories.
Definitely. What I would also say is make sure it's not the same person answering all of the questions. And I know that's really easy to say when you're nervous and somebody's maybe not quite comfortable, particularly in the virtual world. You know, we're still all, although it's 2 years down the line, we're still getting used to, you know, interrupting and speaking and stuff like that. But I do think it's important that if there's 3 or 4 of you coming to do the presentation, you all take ownership of answering the questions, and you can practice that. You can actually say all the finance questions, that's your responsibility. All the marketing questions, that's yours. All the people. So it's actually quite easy to divvy up the questions. And again, the world of work does that as well. You know, everyone's got their own specialisms, and then there's a more sort of general overview. But we've marked people down in the past because there's been one individual, both in the virtual situation and also when we've had face-to-face, where one person just does all the talking, and it starts to feel like their project. And that's a shame, because, you know, everyone's worked on it. So even if you've got someone who's incredibly articulate and good at answering questions, it's not their ball, it's your team. So just make sure that everybody gets a wee kick of the ball.
I think that goes back to that piece I was talking about, Margaret, about people being passionate about it. We want to see the passion from the whole team as well. Yep. And actually, you touched on another interesting point as well, which is about practicing. You know, get some teachers to come along and watch the presentation. They may not have as much background, and similarly, like to ourselves, you know, we haven't lived the process you have. So get them to ask those questions, because if they're asking questions that are, you know, filling in the gaps in their mind, chances are you'll be equipped with the information that we probably want to know as well. So that might be a good way to get your confidence up in terms of getting ready for that.
I think there's also a big piece about, you know, recognising that getting to the final is quite hard. You know, and not every company in Scotland or anywhere will make it to the final. And although there is the nerves, you've got a lot to be proud of. And, you know, that honesty comes into it. The talking about the journal, it all comes into the fact that actually you should be really proud of what you've done and be really passionate about it. And hopefully everyone that is in your team feels the same. And it's really about getting that across to us that, you know, everyone, we're all on the same page. We've all gone through the same journey together. We've all, you know, something's gone catastrophically wrong on a Thursday night, and we all want to pull our hair out. But it's how you get there in the end, and that I think is really important.
And I think, speaking to judges every year when it comes to finals, there can often be sometimes a frustration that actually a team has said something that's really inspiring in the interview, but they haven't written it down anywhere, or they haven't put it in the presentation. And you're like, oh, that's so good. But you have to remember, when you're writing your report, when you're writing your presentation, you're giving your interview, that is the only information that the judges have to go on. So you've had a year-long journey doing this program, but it all comes down from this part as to what you say, what you write, and what you present, because we are only able to give marks for what we see, what we hear, and what you say. And I would always pull that back, because sometimes we get frustrated that we've already marked your report, we've already marked your presentation. You come into interview, you tell us something amazing about a process you developed, about innovation, or how you got your idea up to market, which is fascinating. And we're like, oh, but we wish we could have given you marks for that earlier on in the process. And just thinking about the interview specifically, what top tips would you have for preparing for that? Because it can sometimes be quite a daunting process, having to come onto a call with a panel of 7 judges, all experts in their field, and you're there to talk about your business for 15 minutes, which is quite a short amount of time. How can teams prepare for that over the next few weeks?
I think Phil's tip was a really good one, which was, you know, to get a couple of teachers, or even a couple of parents, or, you know, older brothers or sisters, or if you've been lucky enough to know some of the alumni from previous years, if they would be willing to do it. Because it's online, it's maybe a bit easier to get somebody to give you, you know, 15-20 minutes of their time one night. I definitely say that. The other thing I would say is, I often think, why have you not brought your product that you can show us? You know, so if it's something that you've made to sell and it can be shown visually, make sure you've got that, because, you know, for the judges to actually, because we're not in a position to be able to come and visit your stall or whatever, and if you haven't put pictures into your report, it's a bit frustrating not to be able to see what it is that you've just spent almost a year working on. So make sure you've got your product to hand as well, and practicing to see how it looks, how good it looks, which way to have it. And similarly, if you've got marketing materials, having that as your backdrop, etc., that can really add extra points, because you're showing you've really thought about how you look visually and how you're marketing yourselves as a company to the judges.
I think it's a really good point, Margaret, actually. I mean, visual marketing obviously is a big thing. You know, people buy by looking and seeing whether it's going to be good. And it's the same in whether if the interviews are online this year or in person, then online this year, are they? Yep. So from that perspective, you know, you can be prepared, you can put backdrops, you can look the part, you know, look professional as well, because, you know, treat it like a professional, you know, a professional interview, because it is. You know, so whether if you happen to have team t-shirts, because some do, then wear those. You know, make sure your backdrop's the same. Make sure you're in a room that's, you know, applicable, because that helps as well. You know, we want to engage with you. We don't want to be distracted by something going on the window or the light not being great in the room or anything like that. So that's important. I think the other thing quickly as well is, you know, read your materials. You know, you've written us a report, you've given us a presentation. Go back to your online stuff. Go back through your tweets and your Facebook posts or your Instagram posts, all those sorts of things. Remember what your journey was, because we look at all of that stuff. You know, so, you know, believe it or not, we do go through that social media stuff and have a look at it. So if you've said, I do a lot of social media, and there's 1 or 2 posts, I'm going to start to question them. So I want to make sure that the story ties up, and the interview is where I'm going to make sure I find that out.
And I think a really important point that I want to make before we finish is that the judges that we've picked, you know, do take a lot of time reading over your reports, watching your presentations to get a really good idea of your business. But in the interview, we're not there to try and catch you out. You know, we're not there to make you feel nervous, or, you know, it's definitely not apprentice style or Dragon's Den style of questioning. We are here really to understand your business, to hear from you. That is the one opportunity the judges get to chat to you face to face, whether virtual or not, to meet you as people. And that's what the judges are really keen to hear from, for you to tell your story in a really passionate way and be able to see that sometimes you can't get on the written page or through the presentation. So don't be nervous about it. A little bit of nerves is okay, but it should be a fun experience, because you are the experts on your business. You are the team that has gone through over the course of this last year. You know the answers to the questions that you're going to be asked. You know, you're the people who have developed the skills. Talk about your own journey. You're the people who developed the product. You can talk about that with ease. Our judges are here to just make sure that they can try and capture all of that data that you're throwing at them in an interview and in a report and presentation, all into one place, and then decide who will go on to win the Scottish Company of the Year. I wonder, before we finish, if any of you get any final thoughts of pearls of wisdom that you want to share with our participants as they prepare for the finals.
I think it's just to enjoy it. It's, you know, it comes back to, you've had a year or you know, however long running your businesses, doing this project. It's now is the time to enjoy it. You know, really sell yourselves, and regardless of the outcome, remember just how far you've come. You know, 12 months ago, you will have had nothing, and all of a sudden you're in front of 7 people selling your business. All from me.
I think from my point of view, I'm quite interested in how people fund their business to get it started, because you don't all start from the same starting block, whether you think you do or you actually don't. So we've got people living on islands, we've got rural schools, we've got schools where maybe the area is not a particularly wealthy area, we've got privately funded schools. So everyone's got different, I would say, social capital. And I'm really interested to see how creative people have had to be to raise that capital to get your business started. And I actually give quite heavy weighting towards people that have been very innovative in the way that they've done that, or just incredibly creative and passionate. That excites me, because most of my career I've worked with people who are establishing small businesses. And there's the commonality that runs through that is people's passion and determination. And I want to see that. I really want to see that with the interview.
And just for me, I want to see your personalities. I want to see the impact that it's made on you. And I really want to know, you know, what skills you've developed and how that's going to benefit you. So it's a fun period of time. You know, I did it many years ago, and you know, it was great fun at the time. But it's actually then determining what skills I'm going to do or use going forward, and how I think that's going to impact me. So impact is a good thing, both on the personal level, but also on the social level as well, in terms of the community that you are selling to. You know, has it helped them? I'm big on the social contribution, so that's the other part that I would look for as well, from my personal side of things. But you know, I wish you guys all the best. Hopefully, we'll see many of people that are watching today in a few weeks' time.
Thank you so much to all of you for your time this afternoon, giving up your world of wisdom from your years of experience judging. I really appreciate it, and all the very best of luck to all the teams preparing for your next set of finals.